All right. Welcome. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to PrinterLogic Live. It's a first time event here for us here at Vasion. My name is Marcus Painter, and I'm the Customer Marketing and Advocacy Manager here at Vasion, makers of PrinterLogic. Today, we hope to provide both current PrinterLogic customers and those of you tuning in out of a bit of curiosity with some great aspects of PrinterLogic that truly align with industry trends and your print environment needs. If you're a current customer, hopefully you walk away today with some ideas on how to deepen your implementation of PrinterLogic. And if you're not a customer, we hope you learn a little bit about the outstanding capabilities of PrinterLogic and how it can solve multiple IT challenges at once and truly streamline your technology stack. I don't know about you guys, that's the longest I've ever stared at a screen watching that countdown. But first, I want to introduce everyone to our esteemed guests here. I'm honored to have two great PrinterLogic experts here with me today. First, we have Ben Brown. Ben is the Vice President of Product here at Vasion. And we have Landon Clegg, and he is the Director of Customer Success here at Vasion. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into things. How's that sound, gentlemen?
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
looks like I need to update my profile pic, by the way, because Ben's looks way better than mine. So,
maybe we can make that happen. My picture is actually just a selfie in front of a wall at my house. So you guys are way ahead of me even. So good for you. Well done. Today the agenda sort of looks like this for you guys tuning in. The roadmap is this. First, we want to talk a little bit about the industry trends that we are hearing and seeing from customers. Then based upon those trends, we'll share some of the powerful capabilities of PrinterLogic that some folks are either unaware of or have yet to truly dig into and implement. And there at the end, part 3, we want to share some of our powerful core security features. All right. Lots of clicking. Industry trends. Ben, why don't you kick us off and start with some of the industry trends that we've been seeing and hearing about through 2023 so far?
Absolutely. Would love to. All right. So the first thing that we see and hear about often, right, in the macroeconomic situation, there's been a lot of uncertainty. And so we found with an IDC article, over 60% of CEOs are looking for IT initiatives to drive revenue. So this is a big factor when looking at any kind of IT spend, right? We're looking to bring in new software. A big consideration is what's the business case for this? What's an expected ROI? How's this going to impact the business? Any dollar spent, we're not sure what things look like. So is this going to help impact and drive revenue? This is one that's been a big factor in a lot of customers that we're talking to, a lot of people that are unsure about what's happening. So as companies are considering IT initiatives, ROI and revenue are big factors in those conversations. The next thing is technical debt. And when you think about technical debt, it's that kind of unforeseen cost and maybe legacy decisions that went into your IT infrastructure, into other software that you've purchased in the past, a number of things, right? So these are costs that aren't always baked into the exact consideration for IT software, but CIOs and leaders are really wanting to understand how technical debt is going to impact this. And they're looking at the overall footprint of vendors and software that they've brought in. Are they using all of it? Is there technical debt associated with it? Are their processes efficient? And that kind of leads into the next one. With a Lean IX survey, they found that about 77% of IT budget is actually wasted. And this one's really interesting because we see that, the term shelfware comes to mind. People will buy a piece of software and it sits on the shelf and never actually gets used, or maybe gets implemented in part of the organization and never takes off exactly how they maybe expected it to. So that could be a factor. Another factor that often contributes to this is maybe the adoption was poor or the implementation plan wasn't great. And so we see software come in, get purchased, and never really gets adopted and take off like people would hope. And so that software ends up going away, even though it could solve real problems for the customers. And we're going to touch on that a little bit more with the PrinterLogic software as we get into some of the capabilities we talked to there. But we really want to maximize the spend that people are making, the investment in IT software. And that's one of the conversations that we have quite often. This last industry trend. Yeah, go ahead, Landon.
Can I double down on that actually real quick?
Yeah, please do.
If you don't feel like you're getting the most out of our software, please reach out to us. Like, we want to know. And that kind of ties back into that first point that you brought up of like the CEO expectations, right? We understand that there's a high demand on making sure that you're achieving the kind of results that you want with the tech stack that you have. So if you don't feel like you understand our product well enough or you're not getting that ROI that you're looking for, let us know and let us help you. That's my team, the customer success team. That's our whole job, is to help you achieve whatever your desired outcome is. And so if for whatever reason you feel like you have not yet achieved that outcome and there's some sort of misalignment there, let us know so we can help you and better align with whatever your goals are. So,
yeah, I appreciate that, Landon. That's the point we're trying to get across with today's webinar. One is there's a lot more to PrinterLogic that you might know about, and so we hope to highlight some of those things. But if you're concerned about what you are using us for and the understanding you do have of our current product, hopefully today's conversation is illuminating. And if it's not, reach out to Landon and team and initiate that conversation.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to jump in there, Ben, kind of to reiterate that I do have a little bit of IT experience in my educational days in public ed, and when you said 77% wasted budget, I kind of twinged a little bit. One of my primary role was in assisting with the implementation of new software with teachers in a K-12 setting, and the decisions to purchase something, like in this case PrinterLogic, is one decision, and then it's does it fix our problem, and then what else? And that's the part that I'm really excited to hear more about from you guys today, is the yes and element here. How do we deepen this? How do we make this be multifaceted and tick a number of boxes, not just for the dollars, but also for just the betterment of everyone in our organization, the ease of use, the reallocation of work hours, and so on. So I'm really stoked to hear a little bit more about that later.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for touching on that. So the last point that we see emerging, and it seems like every year this gets more and more urgent, but that's around the progressively bigger or the growing issue around endpoint security. And McKinsey found that only 5 to 10% of endpoints, and that includes printers, are typically covered by security, right? There's a huge market growth opportunity here to increase security, to address all of the endpoints within your network. Zero trust is a trend that we hear about and talk about often, comes up in many conversations with our prospective customers, with our existing customers, how best to adopt it, and so on. And what we find is that there's no perfect security solution. There's a lot of attention around this and a lot of ways to improve. And as new information emerges and teams react to it, and we have some things that we've enabled within our product and a lot we have planned in our roadmap to address security. It's a top issue for all of our customers. It's one that's top of mind for us internally that we think about, and one that we're building into our product each day as we think about the things that we're doing. So these trends are ones that we hear about often. They're not all the trends, that it's not exhaustive by any means, but definitely the things that we see and hear about often that we wanted to highlight here, and that we're going to dive into a little bit deeper as we continue here.
All right, Landon, let's kick it over to you for a minute. Let's talk about what core PrinterLogic offers. What do we got?
Yeah, so like when Ben's going through those trends, they really hit me heavy on the chest because it makes me think of, hey, how is our product being viewed by the customer base, and how are they best utilizing it to receive whatever value it is that they're looking to get, right? I mean, oftentimes our customers will come to us because they have a problem. And that problem is typically, hey, we have a vulnerability with our print servers. Print nightmare was a huge thing that's been talked about over the last 18 months or so. We've had a lot of customers come on board saying, look, I got to get rid of this security risk. Others are just looking for easier way to manage printing because, frankly, most IT teams we speak with, printing isn't the thing they want to worry about on a daily basis, right? And so they're just looking for ways to kind of simplify how they go about managing this environment, because printing is the thing that you don't want to worry about. And when you do have to worry about it, it's not really that fun of a topic, right? And so with the core product line, most of our customers come to say, hey, look, we're really looking for a centralized way of managing this. Well, that's exactly what we do. And so we can kind of start to build out the slide a little bit further, but we help you get rid of print servers. We provide you a centralized direct IP printing and a singular console to manage all of that. Now, we do all of that within a cloud native infrastructure. So it's serverless. That allows you to kind of hit on some of the other IT trends that we talked about, right? I find it interesting that 20 to 40%, that we have a number of 24% in terms of technical debt, but then 77% wasted IT budget. Like those two kind of contradict each other to some degree, right? Where you're saying, hey, I'm really looking to up level my tech stack and kind of modernize it, but I'm not doing that great of a job because I tend to buy things that I probably don't need, right? Or at least there's overlap with other products that I have. And so as we look at the PrinterLogic core product suite, and why we wanted to focus a little bit on this is to say, hey, look, we're native cloud. We've got full immutability there. We support and integrate with, you heard Ben talk about Zero Trust, right? We're fully integrated with the leading IDPs out there, the Oktas, the Azures, the Googles, the Pings, the you name it. We've got the integrations in place. We're agnostic in our approach. Doesn't matter what operating system that the jobs are originating from or what printers you're printing to. It's fully supported end to end. And then there's even more things that we do above and beyond that. So many of our customers have kind of focused on that initial problem of wanting to modernize, transition to the cloud, wanting to get rid of print servers, wanting to centralize, simplify printing. But I'm not sure if everyone started to think about, well, what other things related to print should I worry about? So this is where monitoring, alerting, reporting, seeing how much printing is actually costing you and running reports on those things starts to come into play. That's where we start to talk a little bit more about secure release printing and some of the other things we'll get into today. But we can fully build this slide out now if you want, Marcus. And within the core product itself, there are definitely things that are there inherent with what you have if you're an existing customer, or what you would get if you were to become a PrinterLogic customer, that add additional value beyond essentially managing access to and the delivery of printers and their associated print drivers to your end user customer base, right? You've got the full ability to do reporting, business intelligence, all these other things. And one of those is what you were just actually hopped onto, Marcus. We can go to that, which is kind of supporting print within VDI environments as well, right? So.
Woo, there it is. I told you guys I was going to get crazy with the clicks. It just happened. That I love all of that. And I, again, from my experience in the educational tech world, the idea that PrinterLogic is agnostic in terms of device and platform is really like, that's a mind blower. So often we would see platforms and apps and things that were not able to perform in all of the differing scenarios that we would have in a typical classroom setting or remote learning or things like that. And so that's one of those that jumps out on that last slide where I was like, that's a real game changer. Ben, can you talk a little bit about the virtual desktop infrastructure? And can you explain it to me like I'm five? Because when I saw VDI printing, I was like, what?
Yeah, the one that always comes to mind for me on VDI is virtual desktops. You think about when you go to a doctor's office, right? And you're in that exam room, you're waiting for the doctor to come in. You always see that monitor hanging on the wall with a keyboard attached to it, right? That's typically what a virtual desktop looks like. It's not a full Windows machine. It has a window instance running on it within this virtual desktop. And what we find with a lot of our customers in certain industries, healthcare is a good example of one, as well as manufacturing. They have these desktops, these virtual desktops that people can access. But since they're mobile, going from one room to another or from one area of the warehouse to another, they need to access it at different points. And so with our client, we support virtual desktops. We support native Windows, Mac, and a bunch of different endpoints. And that's what makes PrinterLogic, we talked about agnostic, but it makes it so prolific in that we can support all of the different OSs and get our client installed where your users are printing, right? And so it enables you first and foremost to deploy your printers directly to those. If you go back, please, yeah, we'll run through these, right? You go directly to the endpoints, right? But you can leverage what exists in the virtual desktop in terms of protocols and compression around print job traffic. So it works within that environment. It makes sense there. And all the spooling of those jobs and the user endpoints happens directly en route to the printer, right? And so working within that VDI environment, our native clients, and in some cases, we have native integration with through partnerships with some of these VDI suppliers. It makes our client embed right there within it. The end user doesn't even realize most often that they're engaging with PrinterLogic. But for you as an admin, if you're spinning this up, deploying the printers, et cetera, it makes it very simple and easy for you to manage and maintain, and making the day-to-day printing super easy. So let's go ahead and go forward.
And I think one other thing to call out here, actually, before we move on too, is like the management of those deployments is automated, right? We've got all of those rules that you can set up from a configuration standpoint inside the product, to where you say, hey, if you have a VDI environment or maybe just a standard Windows or Mac environment, you can still set up deployments of printers based on location, users, tying back into the IDP integration. You can do it based on computer, Mac address, just a whole bunch of different things. And then those can also be automated. So kind of further speaking to your point of saying in healthcare, banking, manufacturing, wherever, where you have certain thin clients set up in locations where you may have a different person coming in every day, you can still make sure that whoever's logged in on that virtual desktop has access to whatever printers are closest to them in proximity, so they're not having to go and re-download something or do this or that. Like, it just makes it super, super simple.
Yeah, those deployments can be done in batch, right, initially. And then as you stand up a new office or add new hardware into your network, those deployments are really easy to replicate based on what you just shared. Yeah. Thanks for calling it out. Let's go ahead and go forward, Marcus. Yeah, so here's just kind of a snapshot of what that looks like. If you go back to the graphic, how things flow in that VDI environment. Yeah. So you start with defining what the printer object is, right? Set up those rules, deploy it to the user endpoint, and that makes that connection to and from the VDI farm to engage with that virtual desktop, making the connection to the printer very easy to maintain and manage. Anything else you'd add on that, Landon?
No, not really. I think like one of the big benefits here too, because we're a direct IP print shop, is what you had already called it out, right? Is the compression. So now you don't have traffic going across the WAN, depending, or even within your local network, depending on how you're configured, or what your environment looks like. You don't have those kind of same challenges where you're running into bandwidth issues because of the way that we've architected a solution. So it allows for printing to happen even quicker than in a typical VDI scenario. So.
Great.
Awesome. Believe it or not, I actually definitely understand more. You've taught me right here on the fly, ladies and gentlemen. Well done. the thing that gets me there is also on to that point, the ability to update and push drivers and avoid those conflicts. I know as being a person as an end user and being a tech person going to classrooms, it seemed like that was a lot of times that was an issue. That was, oh, your computer's not up to date, or oh, there's some other thing happening. And of course, we didn't have, clearly, we didn't have PrinterLogic in my experience, but the ability to push those updates and sort of maintain the environment as it says virtually was really like, again, it's like all of these little headaches that come up in people's day-to-day working situations get remedied, which I just love. And then we get to mobile printing. And again, I literally put in my notes, this is sort of IT sorcery as far as I'm concerned. Maybe I'm just too simple, but I get stoked listening to everyone at Vasion talk about how PrinterLogic and the app can sort of open up the ability to get printing jobs where you need them, how you need them, regardless of your work environment. And so that kind of brings us to this idea of the app itself.
And that app is like multifaceted too, right, Marcus? So on here, again, we're calling out this agnostic approach that we have, right? We want a customer to be able to say, hey, look, here's what we want to run and manage within our environment from a hardware perspective or from an operating system perspective. So we're going to allow you to do that, and we're going to make that printing experience for your users the same across the entire environment. And when we talk about the mobile printing app, we kind of talk about a couple different things. One is printing natively from the mobile app, right? Which would be saying, hey, I've got a document or I've got something I need to print out. I'm going to do that directly from my phone or my tablet or whatever other device I've brought in. I'm going to print directly from that device to the printer. And then the other is saying, hey, I actually want to use a mobile device as a way to securely release jobs that are actually being held on my desktop as another option there too. So the mobile app, and Ben, I can let you kind of maybe speak to this from a product perspective, but from a customer perspective, what we often hear is, hey, look, I've got users who are kind of on the go, right? There's a lot more flexibility. There's a little bit of work from home that's happening. There's people kind of roaming around. As we've already talked about, Zero Trust, at least mentioned it a time or two. So I'm starting to kind of segregate networks a little bit here as well and making some changes there as I up my security posture. What are ways that I can still allow those who need to print but are kind of in that zone of being a roaming user or not being on the same network as a printer or something like that? How can I allow them to continue to have the same experience that they have always had when it comes to printing? And in many ways, the mobile printing app starts to cover a lot of those needs, right?
Yeah. And we see the way they authenticate into the app is the same as they authenticate into the device, the endpoint on the client. And so that gives that same level of security that they're concerned about. And then the release, we have things like QR code scanning. We have, you can tap within the mobile app and release it from within the app itself. Like there's multiple methods using the app to release jobs, as well as all the things that Landon's touched on. We've seen this user base of our mobile app grow as we've continued to add new functionality to it. We see that active usage go up, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and one last call out on here too, the mobile app again is that native mobile print experience. So not necessarily the secure releasing of jobs, but actually printing directly from that mobile device to a printer. That, along with what we just touched on with VDI, that's all within the core product. So if you're an existing PrinterLogic customer, you have access to all of these things already. And it's why we wanted to highlight them today, right?
For sure. Awesome. So then that brings us to security features, again, that you may not know about quite yet. We've highlighted a bunch of things that are available. And again, back to the beginning of our chat today, we talked about, there's the baseline, of fixing some fundamental problems, and then there's that deepening of the implementation, which we've kind of circled back a number of times. Security is all over the place. It's in the news. We've hinted at it today already. So let's dig into that a little bit more deeply.
Yeah, I'll touch on this, Marcus, if you don't mind, just a
Absolutely.
little bit. So when I think of what we're doing in the security space, it makes me kind of think back to some of those industry trends where we're looking for IT to help drive bottom line revenues for organizations while forecasting out what their tech debt is and then making really smart choices on what they're going to purchase. Like that's kind of a lot to think through and strategize. And so what we've seen from a lot of our existing customers today is, hey, I'm evaluating all things, right? I'm looking at the hardware that I have and the printers that I have, the number of printers, how much are they being printed to, and everything else. And I'm starting to see what can I consolidate, right? What can I get rid of to start to drive efficiencies that would lead to either kind of profit saving there as you're wanting to increase revenues, or where I can consolidate solutions that have maybe overlapping technology. And I think the advanced security solution and what we're offering is definitely a great landing place for people to say, hey, PrinterLogic is a place that I can consolidate to, knowing that there's breadth there with what they offer from a solution set. So you heard us talk a little bit with the mobile app on secure release print specifically. The mobile app being a way that you can do that through QR codes or just through authentication in the mobile app and releasing there as well. But there's other things too, right? All the kind of traditional ways of releasing jobs through a secure release method, be that with a control panel application that's actually installed on a multifunction printer and doing like a badge swipe to authenticate or entering a PIN code or other credentials. You can even do attach badges to kind of single function printers and kind of provide that same secure release functionality to those if you have kind of legacy hardware that you're wanting to, I guess, ride it till it dies, so to speak, and use its full life. That's also something that's completely supported as well, kind of just within that secure release motion, right? When we say secure release, we basically mean print job is not actually printed out until a user goes and authenticates themselves at a device and says, yes, I would like to print this. And the main reasons for that are, one, can really cut down on waste. There's a lot of paper that gets printed out that probably doesn't need to be out there. Two, there are some security concerns there, confidentiality. What if somebody prints something out that somebody else sees that shouldn't have been seen? Also, speaking back to consolidation, right? I want to get rid of these desktop printers that people need to have in their offices or cubicles or whatever it may be, and I want to move to more kind of centralized multifunction devices as well to cut down on costs. All of those scenarios are really good situations to start to implement something like secure release, and it's something that we fully support as part of that piece of our personal platform with the advanced security solution. So there's a handful of other things in here too, but like Ben, is there anything that you want to touch on specifically?
I want to touch on concurrent IDP. We talked about being OS agnostic. We're also identity provider agnostic. And in many cases, we have customers that have multiple identity providers. They might be using Azure AD, but they've acquired a company that had Okta. And so we do allow for a concurrent IDP in this advanced security solution. So you can integrate more than one, bring all those users into one place, manage them centrally within PrinterLogic, and give them access to the right printers and other things that they need access to, and do that through our advanced security solution here.
Yeah, very cool. And like neither of the, maybe the IDP stuff is a little bit newer, but like secure release in of itself isn't a new concept, but something that we want more of our customers to be aware of. What we're showing on the screen now is a new concept though, and something we wanted to further highlight. So we talked about flexibility, work from home, kind of roaming users, maybe segregation of networks where printers and users aren't on that same network, even if they're on site in an office, as people start to implement their own zero trust strategies and whatever those may be. Off network printing, as we've gone out and kind of talked to the marketplace, has been a really amazing feature that Ben and team have developed over the last while to provide a solution to allow whatever your scenario may be. If you've got contractors, or you see this a lot in healthcare too. We've got affiliates, or you see it sometimes in like larger agencies where you've got different agents coming in and whatnot. We're saying, hey, I want these users to be able to print to these printers, though they may not be connected to the same network that that printer is on. And that's ability to do that is what we refer to as off-network printing. And we offer that in a couple different flavors. So what we're showing now is you've got your device, it's got our PrinterLogic client installed on that device. It's not on, it's off network, or it's outside the network that the printer is on. We host an external gateway for you in the SaaS, in PrinterLogic SaaS. You then have an internal routing service that job gets routed to, so that, or sent to, so that it can then route the job to whatever printer that the user had designated they want that job to be printed out at. That's one flavor. Marcus, if you want to click to the next slide. The other flavors for those who are really wanting to say, hey, look, I don't want to have to deal with hardware anymore. It's something I really want to get away from, is allowing us just to host that internal routing service for you natively within the cloud. So that same kind of thing happens, right? Client installed on workstation outside of network, job gets sent through the cloud and then routed down to whatever the designated printer was by that user. And all this being end-to-end encrypted and everything else is our approach and our way of saying, hey, let's allow people to print wherever they are. And there's some interesting statistics out there about work from home and other things where printing actually hasn't cut down. It's stayed the same or even gone up for people who work remotely, which is interesting. So Ben, is there anything specifically you would like to add?
Just one anecdote I wanted to share on this. You know, we were working with a customer, a product manager on my team shared with me a recording of him helping get a proof of concept set up for this off-network cloud. And the expletives shared from that customer of how excited they were to enable a zero trust infrastructure for printing without having that line of sight to the device on the network. This solution solved a real problem for them. They were so excited. And so it was really neat to see them get excited about this like we are. And it's really opened a lot of interesting conversations of what we can do to enable that zero trust around printing. And so we've got this out in the market today. We're really excited about pushing this across all the manufacturers. And, again, meets all the other things, like agnostic of OS, works native with all those, with VDI and those other environments, but enables printing in a zero trust environment if that's the security framework that you're working in.
What were those expletives again, Ben? I missed those.
I'm not going to share them.
Hey.
I just didn't know. I'm hard of hearing in my age now. So.
You're the youngest one here, I think. So.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not hard of hearing. That was a lie. Sorry.
No age excuse.
I think the only other things we'd want to touch on here, from just like the way we're looking at security and wanting to offer options for people who are on their path towards zero trust, or just looking to kind of increase or bolster whatever their security posture may be, is, hey, look, regardless of what you're wanting to achieve, if we just talked about off network and you fall in that scenario, if you're just wanting to release jobs with badges and control plan applications installed on multifunction devices, if you want to repurpose a single function device or printer into one that can release jobs with security, like all of those things we will support and help you with. If this offline secure release print that you see there, likewise, because we're direct IP printing, if you want to have a job still be available even though you've powered down your workstation and you need to release something, like, again, we will allow that to happen and we'll support whatever your environment looks like. So Ben and his team and the rest of the product development teams have done a fantastic job of understanding what needs are out there and what kind of further problems there are beyond just centrally managing print, and are providing a ton of solutions to offer like a more holistic print management solution.
Awesome. there were I just got breaking news from our guy Jordan. He said no questions came in. So what that means is exactly what I already knew was the case, which is you guys have executed with perfection as always, and you've been able to explain some very complicated technology to a guy like me, and to many folks out there, both customers and as I guess we would say on social media, sort of people that are sort of just curious. So I first of all want to kind of wrap things up here. Thank you to Landon and Ben for taking the time to share your expertise here about PrinterLogic, what we're able to provide for our customers, what's on the horizon, and just ensuring that deep implementation, that multifaceted approach where we're ticking a lot of boxes in terms of your technical needs and your print environment needs. As far as questions, if you end up having questions, this is one of those things where I hang up the phone and then I immediately remember I should have asked this question. Well, if you move on with your day-to-day and you think of something, go ahead and drop that in the comments on LinkedIn, and we've got people, and by that I mean this guy, and we'll definitely get those answered for you. If you're interested in a demo to learn more about how to further implement in your instance or your organization, feel free to reach out. Go to printerlogic.com. Other than that, gentlemen, anything final words for the people out there?
For me, just, hey, thanks for listening. Allow us to kind of talk a little bit more about what we have to offer. And I'll just echo your sentiment there, Marcus. If there's anything you want to learn more about, even just the core product and kind of furthering the value you're getting out of that, let us know. That's what we're here for. We want to help you achieve as much value as you can out of the products that you already have.
Yeah, I'll only add that you don't feel like you need to reach out with problems. If you've got ideas or feedback on our current product, my team is happy to engage in a conversation about how we can improve. And so I welcome those through those same channels. Reach out and we'll be in touch, get you connected with the right person on the right capabilities or features, and make sure that we're building the product that you need.
Awesome. Thank you, Landon. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Stay tuned. We're going to do this again. I don't know when, but it's happening. So stay tuned, keep in touch, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.